Hello everyone, I'm Selima, and today we're going to learn the Italian game. The Italian game begins with the moves e4, e5, knight f3, attacking the pawn on e5, knight c6, protecting this pawn. Here, white moves bishop c4 to develop their bishop, because in the beginning of the game, both sides must develop their pieces as fast as possible. Here, Black has two moves, bishop c5 and knight f6. Let's start with the move bishop c5. After bishop c5, white has two moves, c3 and castle. Let's watch first the move c3. After c3, black moves knight f6, attacking the pawn on e4. Here, white moves d4. And now black can't take the pawn on e4 because they're going to lose their bishop. So they take the pawn on d4. White takes. Now there's bishop b4 check. Here there's bishop d2. If knight c3, then white lose the pawn on e4, and it isn't really comfortable. So bishop d2. If bishop takes d2, then knight takes d2, and both pawns are protected. And if here there is knight takes e4, then there's bishop b4, knight b4. Here there is bishop f7 check, a little sacrifice. And when the king takes, there is queen b3 check, attacking the king and the knight. And for example, black blocks with the pawn, and now we take the knight, and both sides have equal material. Now, if white castles, then there is knight f6, d3 opening the bishop. Now there is d6 also opening the bishop. There's c3 with the same idea of moving d4. Now, for example, castle, which is actually a pretty good move. And now there's d4. And there's also takes, and pretty in equal position. So you can play it. Now here, if black moves knight f6, then there's this move d3. And I'm going to tell you why you shouldn't play knight c3. Because there's a little sacrifice, knight takes e4. And when we take on e4, there's this fork, d5. And now if we take, then the queen takes. Here the best move is bishop d3, pawn takes on e4, bishop takes on e4, and in equal position. So this is very possible, but of course it's better to move d3. Here there's bishop e7. The problem with the move bishop c5 is that there's going to be this pin, bishop g5, and the knight won't be able to move anywhere because we're just going to take the queen. So the best move is bishop e7. Now white can castle or move bishop g5. This move is also possible. But well, the best move is castle to hide the king as fast as possible from the center. Castle. Knight c3 developing. Now if black takes the pawn on e4, then we take not with the knight but with the pawn, and there's no fork. So castle, knight c3, and d6, and that's the opening. Here I can show you something a bit ahead. So you can move h3 so that the bishop doesn't come over here to g4 and doesn't pin our knight. You see, if we move, for example, a3, then there's this move bishop g4, a pin. And if we just don't do anything, let's say a4, then we're in some trouble. After knight d4, we can't take the knight because the bishop will take our queen. So for example, we have nothing to do. For example, a5, then there's knight takes f3 check, pawn takes f3, and the bishop moves, and the king doesn't really feel comfortable here because the queen might attack him, the knight might come attack him, also the two bishops, it's not really comfortable. But if we here made, for example, a3 and they made bishop g4, it's still not the end of the world because we can move h3, attacking the bishop. If they take, then we take with the queen. But they will probably move to h5, and there's still this pin. But we might move bishop e3, and now if the knight comes on d4, we don't take with the knight, of course, because they're going to take our queen, but we take with the bishop, and they take, and we can move with the knight here or here. So nothing dangerous. So this is today's lesson. Thank you everyone for your attention, and goodbye.